Once there lived a young man by the name Waithaka, and he lived in Durumo village in Gatanga area of Thika district. He had finished his high school and was pursuing a diploma in mass communication. He was engaged to a lovely girl known as Mambai, and the two hailed from the same village. Waithaka's family was an average income one. Mambai had just finished her Form 4 and was looking forward to studying a secretarial course that would take her 3 years. She loved Waithaka, and the two would often be seen walking together around that village in the evenings, and at times holding hands. Time went by and soon Waithaka was in his final year at the Institute for Mass Communication. Mambai was gorgeous and Waithaka was the envy of many a young man in his village. Mambai lived with her mother who was known as Wairimu, and Wairimu's husband had died when Mambai was 3. Wairimu had 2 other daughters in addition to Mambai the last born, a total of 3 daughters. As Waithaka was busy studying in his final year in college in Nairobi, Mambai was making preparations to join a secretarial college. Waithaka soon finished his journalism course but stayed in the village since he did not find a job. Mambai, his fiancée, joined the secretarial college and their love continued to bloom. One day, when Mambai had studied for about 3 months and Waithaka had stayed in the village for 2 months, the vehicle stopped by Wairimu, Mambai's mother's compound. It was around 11:30 a.m. and the sun was shining in the sky when the car, a Toyota Prado, stopped. Out of it came an elderly-looking man with a slight potbelly and bald head. He was short and had grey hair. This man, who was obviously the owner of the car, looked to be in his mid-50s and was dressed in a blue suit. He, together with his chauffeur, walked towards the main house where the living room was and called out for the inhabitants of the homestead. "Welcome. Welcome," said Mama Mambai, and hurried to the entrance of the main house to greet the visitors. Mambai felt a gut instinct that all was not well and hurried to get her mtungi, a water barrel, to go fetch water. While Mambai was away, the visitors were ushered into the Mama Mambai's living room. "My name is Mr. Bogawa. I am a member of the Board of Management (BOM) at Mutomo Secondary School," began the visitor. "I remember your daughter Mambai was once a student in that school." Wairimu, Mambai's mother, nodded in the affirmative. "And this is Mbogo, my chauffeur," said Mr. Bogawa, nodding towards the young man of about 27 years of age. They conversed for about an hour and Bogawa went straight to the point. He told Mama Mambai that he desired to have her daughter's hand in marriage and, signaling to Mbogo his right-hand man, opened a small briefcase that Mbogo had handed to him and produced wads of money. He counted out a total of 150,000 Kenya shillings which he handed over to Mama Mambai, who was visibly surprised. As she took the tea utensils to the kitchen in the other house in the compound, her hands were trembling due to excitement. In the kitchen, Wairimu met her youngest daughter. Very soon, lunch was served, and when Mambai was instructed to serve the guests, she reluctantly did so. She was told to sit and listen to what they had to say, and when she heard what the men had come for, she boiled inwardly with rage. In addition to being unattractive in her eyes, Mr. Bogawa was obviously old enough to be her father. The visitors soon left at around 3 p.m. and as soon as they had gone, Mambai hurried towards the road towards Waithaka's home, and luckily, she met him on the road. Mambai sobbed out the story of the visitors. Waithaka told Mambai that he had heard about Bogawa, who owned a clearing and forwarding company in the city, a string of flats in both Nairobi and Thika, as well as a supermarket in their shopping center. He was a wealthy man whose 2 sons studied abroad and was married to 2 wives. 2 of the other younger children to Bogawa, a son and a daughter, studied in private schools in Nairobi. 2 weeks later, Waithaka paid a visit to Mambai's home but received a cold shoulder from Wairimu, who was determined to have her daughter marry a wealthy man. Time went by and Mambai and Waithaka drew even closer, in spite of the fact that Bogawa had paid another visit to Mambai's home to try and initiate dowry negotiations. He was under the delusion that his money would buy Mambai's heart, but how wrong he was. Nothing would separate Mambai from Waithaka, her true love. One day, Mambai and Waithaka were walking along a dirt road in the village, and it was a bright sunny day. As they were walking holding hands, laughing together, a Toyota Prado that was driving towards the 2 lovebirds soon came into view, and who should come out except Mr. Bogawa. A brief confrontation ensued as Bogawa tried to warn Waithaka to stay away from Mambai, but Mambai sided with Waithaka and told off Mr. Bogawa, telling him to go and date women of his age and leave her alone. For a brief moment, both men glared angrily at each other before Bogawa retreated and boarded the driver's seat of his vehicle and sped off. Mambai held Waithaka lovingly and stroked his chest tenderly, reassuring him of her love for him. 1 week after that incident, Waithaka received a letter from a private media outlet informing him of a vacancy in their organization. Very soon, Mama Waithaka called her eldest son asking him if he could host her younger son in the city as he began work. He agreed, and soon Waithaka traveled to the city after bidding his fiancée Mambai farewell. After 2 months of working, Waithaka rented his own apartment. One day, while in his 3rd month of work, during the April holiday of that year, Waithaka went back to the village since his media house had given him as well as some other employees a week off. He soon went out the next day to the shopping center to catch up with some of his male friends. In the evening, he planned to spend some time with Mambai, his fiancée. At around 3:45 p.m., Waithaka met up with Mambai, and the two lovebirds hugged passionately since they had stayed for close to 3.5 months without seeing each other. The two walked around together, and Waithaka even escorted Mambai to her home, but they had to part ways at the corner just next to her mother's home, since Mambai's mother, greedy for wealth, favored a union between her daughter and the wealthy Bogawa. Time went on, and Waithaka was still in the city working hard. Things started looking up for Waithaka when the state-owned media house offered him a job with 90,000 Kenya shillings per month net starting salary, as well as a 3-bedroom bungalow as his house. Wairimu, Mambai's mother, had accepted him as a son-in-law, and he even went on to buy some groceries for her and even gave her a cash present of 10,000 Kenya shillings. Very soon, Waithaka and Mambai got married. After 1 year, Waithaka had received a salary increment, and his wife Mambai had been working for a land purchasing firm as a secretary, and they soon welcomed their firstborn son. They lived happily ever after.